Hello, everyone, and welcome in. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist. Welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Tonight, we are here with some more sleepers, breakouts, and busts. And joining me for that is Jesse Moeller. Jesse, thanks for joining me, man. It's always great to have you. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, Aaron? It's going pretty good for myself. Finally got some time away from the daughter who's been a handful all day today. So we're with the wife, get some time to talk some fantasy football. So I'm all aboard that train.
I do not have that luxury. Today is my first official day of vacation. So naturally, I took my kid to a birthday party with a friend down the street. And somehow that turned into me wrangling up half the kids at the party, and they are having a sleepover at my place. So it seems to be quieting down a little, which I guess is all relative to how it started. I still hear yelling and laughing and screaming, but I don't believe anybody has lost an arm or a leg yet.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. It's a 20-minute show. A lot of blood can be spilled in 20 minutes. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't hear any dogs yelling in pain. I don't hear anything. It seems to be all right.
You don't want it completely quiet, or you don't want it too loud. You want like a little bit of noise coming out of there. Like if it's quiet, you're like, what's happening?
We got a new puppy a few weeks ago, and he's out and all over the place normally. I went over today about a half hour ago and I said, "Hey, why'd you guys put the puppy back in his cage?" And they're like, "We didn't." I went over, the puppy's cage isn't even locked. The puppy decided to go in the cage and lock it or put himself in there and close the door. Puppy was out there with the kids and said, "Fuck this, I'm done. I'm going in my cage," and he's just hiding back there.
That's too good. That's too
smart good. Puppy. So
sometimes
I can
you gotta
relate.
know. Mm-hmm.
I had to walk the one kid home, and I got myself had myself a mini cigar and a nice little 5-minute walk, and said, "Oh, this is nice, kid free." Oh, I hear loud banging. No crying. That's a good thing. All right, I guess we should get
Fingers
into it.
Crossed, right? Yeah.
World War III erupts in my living room on Fortnite. We have your first player. The sleeper is Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. Hard to say sleeper when he's wide receiver 8, but somehow he's being slept on. Fantasy pros have him projected as wide receiver 8. Negligible rushing stats, 94.4 receptions, 1,235.1 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. And I'm sure you can explain to me how wide receiver 8 is being slept on, because the first time I looked at this, I said, "Wide receiver 8, Jesse, way to take the low-hanging fruit, buddy." And then I looked and I kind of said, you know what? He kind of is being slept on a little, even with a wide receiver 8 rank, because I don't think people are drafting him where Fantasy Pros has him. I don't think he's going as wide receiver 8.
No, he's fallen in like the second round, like below. I love Garrett Wilson, but he's fallen below Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra, like all these guys, and I'm wondering just what happened. he's a monster. I don't get it. I
was telling you earlier, I got him dirt cheap in a startup auction. I mean, granted, after I realized that it was because it was a startup dynasty auction, and I didn't read the rules, but it was still pretty cheap. So
right, you're like, thank you for the best wide receiver in football, or the second best wide receiver in football. How do you want to pair it? But like, he hasn't finished as the wide receiver 8 like that bad on points per game basis since 2017. Like, I don't know what we're doing here, but it's just people are sleeping on him. I don't get it. And I know people are thinking, oh, he's worth the Jimmy Garoppolo. Derek Carr was atrocious last year. Like, you look at his stats, they fell off a cliff. So I don't understand. And now he has Jimmy Garoppolo. We passed the worry of the freaking Aiden O'Connell and Brian Hoyer situation. But still, even if it is a backup quarterback, he's going to see a 40% target share basically, because backup quarterbacks hyper target their best wide receivers. So yeah, I don't understand why people are so worried about Davante Adams. He saw zero signs of regression last year. Like, they used him deep down the field. He was up in the league at the top of the touchdowns. Like, he did everything you wanted. And then you look at his reception perception chart, and it's like off the charts. It's a green Christmas tree that lights up, and it's like, I get it. He's 30, but he hasn't shown any signs of regression. It's not going to happen this year. Like, the Raiders are going to have to pass a lot, and who are they going to look to? Davante Adams, and he could be double covered. It just doesn't even matter. So yeah, if I'm getting him wide receiver 8, I'm counting my lucky stars, because I know I'm getting at minimum like 18 points per game, and I'm just going to just take that to the bank every time.
You're right though. That's the reason for the dip in value. because Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo is a huge dip in quality of quarterback. Derek Carr to me isn't a huge drop in quarterback, let alone him to Jimmy G. It's Derek fucking Carr. What are we doing? Since when did Derek Carr become a good quarterback?
Like, I don't. So yeah. So I had this tweet out last month, and I was just pointing out Derek Carr was 30th in true completion percentage, 31st in clean pocket completion percentage, 27th in red zone completion percentage, and 28th in deep ball completion percentage. And I was like, listen, I get it. People think Derek Carr is a really good quarterback, but like he was really bad last year. So Jimmy Garoppolo it's going to be that level. Like, it was not going to be worse. So I just, I don't.
So 27th, 28th, 30th, and 31st. Remind me again, how many teams are there?
There are, I think, there 30. What? How many teams are there?
32. Okay, so those are not good rankings, is what you're saying, right? All right.
No, he was bad. He fell off a cliff last year. So I just, people are just too worried about it. They're overthinking. It's classic where it's like you overanalyze the situation and you talk yourself out of it. That's what people are doing with Davante Adams. He's too freaking good. Like, just draft Davante Adams. Like, are we really expecting AJ Brown, who's never had a season close to what Davante Adams has had? Like,
these are the two who stood out. Like, I get Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, Hill, even Diggs. He should not be lower than 6. Lamb, AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson. This is the drop off here. Adams should be up to at minimum 6, depending on preference. These 6, I think, are a top 6. Then we have Lamb, AJ, Wilson, St. Brown, Waddle. I think Waddle should be higher up too, but there's no way he's not in this, whatever you want to call the second tier, third tier. He should be in this top 6. There's no way. 100%. I don't get, like, if you want to put him all the way up to 3, 4, I don't. I can't argue it. He can't be any lower than 6. Give me. I've had this choice in multiple drafts where it's gotten back to me on a turn, and I've had the choice of CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Davante Adams, and then this whole group here. I have a lot of Davante Adams. This is why I said in some of these dynasty, especially in dynasty, it's really easy to draft win now teams in dynasty. Why are players like, I've had Davante, I think it was a super flex league, but I got him in like the end of the 3rd round. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, I don't get it. So I'm in a discussion to get him in another dynasty league. The guy wants a 1st and a 2nd, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to pay that, but realistically, my team's competing, so I'm probably going to pay it. It's just the fact he's an old wide receiver. But even, like, say I pay that for him, a 1st and a 2nd, like, he's well worth that price. I'm going to get like probably 2 or 3 years of elite production. So it's just like,
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I understand it's dynasty, but at some point, the point of a dynasty league still becomes winning the fucking title. You have to. You can't, like, you get these people who are in love with the idea of rebuilding, and they're just constantly, I'm building for next year. I'm building for next year, and they just turn over youth over and over and over, and never fucking goes anywhere. At some point, you have to push your chips all in, buy a couple of veterans, draft some veterans, and decide to go for it. I don't understand this.
Yeah, that's why I traded CeeDee Lamb for Davante Adams in a 1st. Like, I made that move in one of my leagues, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. Give me the production, and I'll bank the 1st, and we'll just. And of course, it was roasted on Twitter because that's Twitter, right? But I was like, guess what? My team is likely going to be better these next 3 years. So absolutely, all in on Davante Adams this year.
It's Twitter.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Very much so. It's very much a bubble.
I'm not that big of a fan of CD to begin with. I get the talents there, but I always thought he was more of a volume play than anything. I don't know. Dak seems to be on his, his way out here. I don't know. I like that trade pretty easily. Thank you. Have next is your breakout. Buffalo Bills running back James Cook, and I've learned this from doing these graphics a lot. On Google, you have to search James Cook, Buffalo Bills, because if you search James Cook, you get a pirate. So
I did this. I did this yesterday. I was looking up a photo of Cook for one of the articles or whatever, and it kept sending me to the freaking guy that was the pirate and the guy that would travel the world. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? I was like, come on, man. Like, we're not that popular with James Cook yet. So yeah. So that would definitely qualify him as a breakout. He's not the first person popping up on Google.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly. He's not a breakout until he's the first James Cook that pops up. But
you need to see that picture pop up, and you're like, cool. All right, we have made it. We're here. It's official. But yeah, it's RB31.
I have not been the James Cook guy, but RB31 rank for Fantasy Pro seems asininely low. Their projections are 748.6 rushing yards, 4.5 touchdowns, 31.2 receptions for 236.3 through the air, and one and a half receiving touchdowns. These seem really conservative. RB 31. I'm not a James Cook truther. I'll take him when he falls to me. He's not a target. He's not an avoid. So you're saying he's the second worst starting running back, and there's probably some backups you're drafting ahead of him? Like, I'm not a huge James Cook fan, but last time I checked, I bet when I pull this up, we've got Alexander Madison 8 spots ahead of him, and there's no fucking way I'm touching Alexander Madison over him. But so go ahead and make your case while I look.
All right, so I have him ranked as the RB20, and I almost feel like I'm too low on him at that point, just because like so if he takes the receiving work that Singletary saw, like he's basically paying off that cost of RB31 right there. So it's really a floor case that you're getting with him. And if he actually hits where he dips into more of that like work on both sides, the receiving and the running, because he was a very efficient running back last year, you're smashing. Like it's a smash play. So the RB31 in points per game last year was Raheem Mostert with 10.5. You're telling me at RB31 you don't think James Cook can get 10.5 points per game with the Buffalo Bills offense, where realistically he doesn't have to see a ton of volume. It's one of the better offenses in the league. So he's going to get the receiving work. And imagine if he does earn some of that goal line work too, because that's the big fear, right? It's like, oh, Damian Harris can take a lot. What if James Cook earns some of that goal line work too, right? Then all of a sudden you're talking about a guy who's vaulting well past RB31. And I just think he's a good running back who, I get it. It was a little bit of a disappointing rookie year, but you're talking someone who's been on the James Cook train since he was drafted by the Bills. So I don't see any time to get off right now, because now is the time to ride it and just keep going with it. Because look at, we have David Montgomery. He's not really going to see much passing work. Like there's that. Pacheco, same situation. It's Cook and Pacheco are actually interesting to me because
his brother's not on a roster.
Yeah, and he's ahead of him. DeAndre Swift. Like there's Madison,
all these. What are we doing with Madison 10 spots? And I know someone's going to watch this and I'm going to get the tweet. Yeah, but you're just a player profiler guy, so you hate Alexander Madison. Alexander Madison's not a good running back. He decreases in efficiency every year, and he volumes his way to a top RB5 finish every time he plays because he gets 900 carries.
Right. And I know we talk about camp hype, and it's kind of like, you take it with a grain of salt. I haven't heard more camp hype of any single player this season than James Cook. Like it's been nonstop. Like we've had the team come out, Josh Allen's come out, who said he's going to see a lot of work. Like at a certain point, you have to kind of listen. And if it's a repetitive drumbeat over and over and over, where they're like, oh, James Cook's smashing, James Cook's going to see the work. Oh, James Cook's doing this. And then you see the camp highlights and you're like, you know what? Like RB31, what do you have to lose? It's not going to, even if he doesn't hit, like that's not going to cripple your team because you're not paying a substantial price for him. So like, it's really just good offense, good player. He's efficient. Imagine if he gets that volume on top of it. Like he could actually be a very good player for you this year in fantasy. Like,
even if I don't believe in the player, I'm going to have a lot of shares of him just based on tiers. If you look, he is the last of a tier of usable running backs before we fall off a fucking cliff of guys I want nothing to do with. I get Samaje Perine was sexy when we thought Javonte Williams wasn't going to play, and we got A-Chain, but we hit from James Cook to A.J. Dillon. I was out on A.J. Dillon when he looked like he was going to be good. Brian Robinson sucks. Gibson, they hate. Penny can't stay healthy. Right. Jamal Williams won't score 17 touchdowns. Khalil Herbert's going to be three-headed back. Like, what the fuck are we doing? He is the last of a tier and should be fought for. But
he's one of the last guys you actually have a path to seeing like a quote-unquote like RB1, not necessarily a bell cow, but that could be like the high-end range of outcomes. And once you get past him, it's literally a guys with part-time roles.
How is
A-Chain's the other guy because he's in a really good offense, but it's like there's a ton of question marks around him. All these guys, Charbonnet,
dealing with injury already.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I just don't get it. Like I don't know why he's so underpriced. Like that's just
how is where the hell was it? How is DeAndre Swift going at 26 and Rashad Penny's going at 35?
Right.
I don't think I would have more faith that Rashad Penny'd be the opening day starter than DeAndre Swift.
Right.
I feel like Swift is the pass catching back.
Yeah, and he fits that offense perfectly.
That's
like
gross.
You're putting Penny behind the best offensive line in the league. What do you think is going to happen? That's just it's literally a health. If Penny was healthy, like he'd be going so much higher in drafts. Like if he didn't have the injury concerns, like he would be way above that. So yeah, he's getting injury faded to oblivion, and I get it because he's never been healthy. But people are injury prone until they're not. So, and this doesn't have to be Rashad Penny thing. I love Rashad Penny. Like I've seen him play, and the guy's been very good.
I don't know what we're doing some days, but that brings us to your bust. San Francisco tight end George Kittle. Fantasy Pros has him ranked as tight or projected as tight end 4. No rushing stats, 60.7 receptions, 80.5 receiving yards, and 6.1 receiving touchdowns. Why are you out on Mr. Kittle?
All right, so this one's difficult to say, at least for me, because George Kittle is probably my favorite player in the NFL. So this one hurt my heart a little bit to do this, but it's literally the talent. It's just
it's the talent you're out on?
Around no, the talent around him. Like there's
okay.
There's
so the argument you're about to make of why, the reason you're out about to say you're out on Kittle, I think is the exact argument I'm going to use of why I'm out on Debo. So go ahead.
Yeah. So
we just chose a different guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally a pick your guy with San Francisco, but like when all 4 of those guys were healthy last year with Brock Purdy, Kittle saw an 11% target share. Like he was non-factor, and they were using him to block a lot. And that's the problem with Kittle is he's such a good blocker. Shanahan's like, you know what? Let's just have him block instead of him being the stud route runner that he is. But like, it's just the issue. And even if you take out Brock Purdy, if it was any 49ers pass catcher, when it was Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle on the field, it was only 13%. Like he saw a massive increase when Deebo Samuel's off field is up to like 30% target share. But when Deebo was playing, Ayuk was playing, and CMC, like they literally you cannot. That's the hard part with like a really good offense like this. Somebody's going to fall short. It's one of those, and everyone loves Brandon Ayuk, and I'm like I think he's a very good wide receiver, but the routes he runs are the most difficult. So I'm not really interested in Brandon Ayuk either. And I know this might be blasphemy on fantasy Twitter because everybody.
Purdy's not a good quarterback. I know they went like 7-1 with him, but it wasn't because Brock Purdy was a good quarterback. It was the same as with Jimmy G. He wasn't a good quarterback. The team's just that fucking good around him.
Yeah. The situation's incredible. It's the perfect situation for any quarterback, right? Because you have an elite pass catcher
quarterback.
It's just incredible. Yeah, you think they would figure this out, right? And then maybe, who knows? Maybe it's Trey Lance finally, and that happens, and that would be nice to see for Trey Lance because he's getting destroyed everywhere, anywhere on social media. But
if that team had Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, they'd never lose another game for the next 10 years.
Right?
It's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, they'd be 17-0 every year. But like the thing with Kittle is his targets, like his data and everything around him kind of regressed last year, where his target rate, his target share, his yards per round, it all kind of dropped off. And he's getting to that age where you kind of have to question because he's like 30 years old now. So he's not young anymore. He's had a ton of injuries throughout his career. And I know, like, so has Debo, and CMC's had his fair share too. But at a certain point, like, it's going to happen where George Kittle is not going to be the George Kittle we knew, right? Where he's going to be running less routes, not playing a full snap share and all that stuff. I'd rather not pay the tight end 4 cost. And I would just wait if I'm going, because I want the truly elite guys. Like
he's moving up. He was tight end 6 at one point. I'm out on Kittle, but for different reasons. Earlier in the draft season, Kelsey's obviously everyone's number 1. He's the guy. If I could get him early, I got him. Then I found the second group of Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts was going too early. So I was getting Kittle, Goddard, Waller later. Now the last 3-4 weeks, I still go for Kelsey if I can get him. The group of Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts, I'm still out on because they're going astronomically high. But now the group of Kittle, Goddard, and Waller, I'm out on as well because they're also going too high. So now I've tried to grab like one player, like wait a bit and see if someone like Engram, Freiermuth, like someone in this range here falls, not Chig.
Nope.
Komet. I have a lot of Schultz, Komet, Dulcich, Higbee, and where's Gerald Everett late?
He's way down there. Yeah.
An insane amount of them. So I find, like I said, I don't have many Kelseys because he goes top 5. And even in the leagues where I have a top 5, it's kind of tough to pay up. So I find for the most part, I don't have a single quarterback ranked inside the top 10. And instead I pile Everett and Higbee late with one of Dulcich, Komet, Schultz, or, in the middle rounds. And I'm basically punting tight end this year because, like I said, the middle three here were going too early. Now they're going way too early, and the second group of three is also going too early. So I'm pretty much out on this range. Like I've had drafts where I said, "Oh, I'll just get one of these when they fall to me," and it's gotten to me in the 4th round, and all 7 of these guys were gone, and I'm going,
"What
the fuck are we doing?"
Yeah,
the
like
4th round.
In my redraft leagues, I'm like at 75% Andrews right now, just because for some reason he's falling like end of second, and I have him tier 2 by himself. Like I have him above all those other guys, so like for me, it's the difference. But
see, I got him in the 3rd in a couple of leagues, and that's the only place I own. I got him at 3-3, 3-6.
That's beautiful. I would absolutely love that. Like I'm taking him late second if he falls me, and it's happening every redraft and best ball in all these leagues where I'm like, guess what? I guess I'm gonna get Mark Andrews again. I just can't turn it down. Like I just can't. I'm debating making this guy my tight end one over Kyle Pitts because I'm so into Andrews this year. But that's a whole other thing. But
I've had Pitts fall late to me in like the 5th or 6th in a few lately that I've grabbed.
That's good.
I don't know. I only have 1 or 2 shares of Andrews. Hawkinson, I think I may have 1. And I don't. He's way too high, I think.
He goes too early. Like he's the guy that like starts off that tier that you're talking about every time. And I'm like, why pay for him when I can get Waller? If I'm going to draft in that tier, give me Waller later or Goddard, whoever falls like the 4th or 5th guy from that tier. Just take that guy.
I'm gonna try and bring TJ. I'm gonna try and bring up NFFC here. I know Fantasy Pros doesn't give you a date range, so I'm gonna check here. I'm gonna go the last month on NFFC because I feel like that's not the way it's going late. Waller, I find, has been fucking skyrocketing there.
If this was a couple months ago, he was way cheaper. Now he's like shot up.
So this is since the beginning of July. Did it switch over? Yeah, it switched over. Okay. So it's Kelsey still, and then it's Andrews, Hawkinson. Oh, they still have Kittle as 4. Yeah. See, I don't find that to be true. I find Waller's going, I find Pitts is going 4, Waller's going 5, Kittle 6, and then Goddard 7. But either way, these guys are getting way too expensive, and I've even got a few shares of Freiermuth. Ingram, I find, goes too early too.
Freiermuth's that last guy that I'm comfortable where I have him as my locked-in starter. Once he falls off, if it's past him, I'm like, screw it. I'm just fading tight ends because then it's literally a mystery box at that point. There's guys like you talked about before where it's like Schultz or Dulcich, but at least I have comfortable Freiermuth.
I'm going to switch this to just the last week. I'd like to see how this is affected.
Yeah, he's still there.
Oh, there we go. Chig has dropped to 14. That still seems high. In the new situation, I'd take Higbee, Komet, or Everett over him. Everett's moved up a few spots. Chig, I have Dulcich a lot. Freiermuth 9, but still we see Pitts is all the way down to 6 in the last week with Kittle, Waller at 4 or 5. So maybe that's it. See, I told you the last week or so, I found I've gotten a few shares of Kittle or Pitts because he is, look, ADP of 68. So he is falling. And I'm getting him after these 2 are already off the board. So that makes sense because I just said a few minutes ago, I thought I was getting a few more shares of Pitts lately when I had no Pitts all off season. So
that makes sense. Price. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I love that price for him. He's too good of a talent. Like he's literally too good of a talent. You have to figure,
man.
You have to ride with him. But
all right. People have to do. Well, that concludes your sleepers, breakouts, and busts. You want to take a minute here to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, so you can find me at a few different spots. I am also at the League Winners with Aaron, so you can find me over there. You can find me on P2W. If you go there, you can see the written work there. You can find me on the Ratings of a Fantasy Football Fanatic podcast. I do a podcast with my buddy Prue Patel, which is the FF Squared podcast. You can find me on that. You can YouTube, all those sites. Any one of the social media platforms, it's all J Moeller 05 at the bottom of the screen. That's my name on everyone. So if you want to find me, go on there. My link tree, the bio is there. You'll see the written work, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of a very quick spiel on where you can find me.
Sweet. Thank you for joining me, man. That was great.
Thank you for having me.
All right. This was Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with Jesse Moeller. Once again, this is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist. This has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again, Jesse, for joining me, and thank you all for watching. Take care and have a great night.